Hi, Dylan Roberts here, CDIO, York and Scarborough Hospitals Foundation Trust. This presentation is about our EPR, Electronic Patient Record, Strategic Objectives Dilemma. That is, it is a presentation which will give a quick overview of our revised digital strategy, which aims to secure some funds from the Digital Aspirant Programme. It aims to explain the differences between the different types of electronic patient record systems and technology architectures. And it also talks about the necessary transformation required in the health and care system and tries to make a link in terms of which EPR strategic objectives are best in terms of enabling that to happen with some of the risks and issues relating to them. This is a dilemma in that there are various ways in which we can go, each of which has got some risks and issues. And I'm hoping through sharing this presentation, there's the opportunity to get the views and inputs of others in order to inform the best decision. So some objectives, it's a learning session, quick overview of the work in progress strategy, an understanding of EPR strategy choices, an understanding of the considerations for our future EPR decision, and the necessary leadership to take them forward, and obviously space to provide some feedback and opinion. So, a quick overview of our Plan A strategy, which was presented back in December 2020. Our Plan A strategy 2021 to 2024, over 2 slides. First of all was to sort out the basic infrastructure and end user compute foundations, due to a lack of investment in the trust over many years, I think, and to deliver the minimum service standard for a digital information service. I estimate that to be a cost of around £11.3 million worth of capital over the next 3 years. That is to get us to a good base foundational position, which is safe from cybersecurity attack and reliable and performance infrastructure for us to then upgrade year on year after those 3 years. And also in terms of bringing the right discipline and teams and capabilities into the digital and information service, £1 million extra revenue funding recurring, which is primarily for particular skills and capabilities. That just gives us the foundation to build the house on top. The other part of Plan A between 21 and 24 was to develop the CPD, our in-house electronic patient record system, the core patient database, core record capability, so it does the basics well. That is a business change program which is to simplify, standardize and digitize our clinical practice and documentation. That clinical practice and documentation that relates to 80% of what we do for 80% of our patients, regardless of specialty. And through that standardization of practice and documentation, inform the development of a core record capability from a digitization point of view with a modern user interface. Oracle have got Apex as a capability which enables us to develop modern user interfaces which work on mobiles, any platform. And this program should save time for clinicians, and by clinicians I mean nurses, AHPs as well as doctors. Automate mundane tasks, let people know what's important when doing those tasks, improve patient flow, improve safety and data quality, and as I said before, be device agnostic. The digital aspirant funding would have funded the expansion of this to cover capabilities across areas that we still need to do around EPMA and things like that, but it would have also enabled integration with our partners. And the idea was that would be our strategy, our aspirant bid, for which we received £250,000 worth of pump funding, was to sort out the basic infrastructure, sort out basic intelligence, and look at the case for developing our core capability. So the Plan B is a Plan A+. Although we agreed a particular approach which we wrote in our bid, with NHSX, the goalposts have changed, and to secure further funding through Digital Aspirant, there is a need for us to develop a strategic outline case that articulates the electronic patient record strategy for York and Scarborough and the ICS, so combined. We've brought Ethical Healthcare Consulting in to help us to do that. They are asking the question, what are our strategic investment objectives for the development of our strategic outline case? It's important to know the investment objectives to inform the development of the case. And this is part of the presentation today in terms of trying to ascertain and determine that. The NHS and healthcare system are going to have to transform the way they deliver care. If we're ever going to recover following on from the COVID pandemic, the COVID pandemic has given us a good driving reason to transform the system, which is much due, I think, similar to other industries. The basis for any transformation, and let's remember our mantra is IT and digital is the means to an end, not the end itself, is our future clinical strategy. As you'll see there, the core of that is building better care. Excellent care is our hospital, in our hospitals and communities that is joined up, consistent and of the highest possible quality. If that's the mantra, then that's what we need to enable. And the approach to actually flip the care system is for us to work better as a system as a whole. How can we organise the system or enable the system, a system which includes a circle of care around a patient, which includes family, includes caregivers, includes voluntary sector, charities, NHS providers, local government providers, social care, primary care, mental health, community services, a system of providers and supporters all working as if they're one organisation, one system around the needs of that patient, and also a scenario where that patient is well informed about their health and well-being decisions, both in terms of prevention, self-care, and the choices they've got. And this is just a diagram from the lead system, but I'm sure it could be similar in other places. The way that happens is to enable what I would call an ecosystem, a health and well-being ecosystem. So different sets of organisations around different conditions, or different sets of organisations around different people or different geographies. It's that ability to flex that as if it's an integrated health and well-being ecosystem, not a fixed system. Interestingly, digital in itself, and the difference between digital and IT is in a similar vein. Digital in the 21st century is about ecosystems of applications, ecosystems of services, ecosystems of devices which mesh and come together and can be personalized so there is the right mix to meet an individual's needs, their wants, or in the health world, potentially their condition. The problem with digital health compared to other industries is that the core thing which is missing out of the health and care ecosystem are the primary provider organisations. The NHS, the acute hospitals, the community, mental health, councils, social services, they are missing because of the incumbent systems that are in place. The opportunity for the digitisation of healthcare in this particular way can only happen if there's a market shift in the way that the incumbent software vendors design and architect their systems. But the opportunity is there. Although there are hundreds of thousands of apps, devices and all sorts, they all work in silos. Other industries that have been transformed through digitisation is a good example is the transformation of the automotive and mobility industries. The automotive industry was traditionally about selling cars, which people bought. That is no longer the case. The automotive industry's business model now is about collaborations to enable things like self-driving cars. It's more about getting people from A to B through different applications. There's partnerships with Uber, there's partnerships with Lyft, there's automated partnerships around self-driving, and all of that is working on consistent platforms and based on the same components coming together in different ways depending on individual needs and wants. People have to share the sensors and the way in which cars will automate or will self-drive around particular cities or localities. And similarly, you'll know within your different cars, you have the ability to integrate things like your Android Auto, your Apple CarPlay, and so forth on different platforms in different ways. The automotive industry is going to transform through digitization. Similarly, clinicians want choice, and specialisms will become more specific and specialized in the digital world. No longer will clinicians work alone. Clinicians with particular specialties have the ability to connect across geographies around their specialisms, and their specialisms will lead to better insight and information, the application of artificial intelligence, machine learning, and even the application of virtual reality, whereby lead clinicians can develop and even demonstrate particular procedures or automate particular procedures remotely, and applications are developed in a way whereby they're very specific to the specialism concerned with their own data models. There's a necessity for there to be an ecosystem or a number of different specialist applications and services around specialties which will be different but will need to integrate with care records. Digital, to sum up, digital can be adaptable to the place, to the context that we're working and the personal demand. But healthcare has yet to be properly digitized. So, what's our application electronic healthcare record strategy, and will NHS fund it? So the systems analogy. The analogy I use is around the music industry. People know that vinyl is an all or nothing situation. You buy a piece of vinyl, it's from a particular artist, it's fixed, it's locked, it's all or nothing. That's all you get. You get a mixtape, a bit like me in the 80s and 90s. Used to do a mixtape of different capabilities, different music. It required me to have the skill and the equipment to be able to integrate different pieces of music and record them onto one tape, maybe pressing pause when the talking came on the top 40, whatever, to record my own mixtape. Once I'd recorded that mixtape and gone through that issue and that trouble, that tape was fixed based on the time I actually did that, based on the needs and wants I had at that particular time. And now we're in a world where actually music is digitized and it's in the cloud, so people can have a world of what they call active personalization through the use of things like Spotify, through things like Amazon Music or whatever. You can have playlists based on your mood, based on your particular wants and need at that time. It can be your personal playlist. It can be it can be mixed in whichever way you need and want at that particular time. Vinyl being all or nothing, mixtapes being for people who are well equipped, and playlist in the cloud provides active personalization. In a similar vein, if you think about the different types of applications or the EPR approaches that we can take, we could go for a monolith application which cuts across all one system for everything, and you're reliant and incumbent on that one system. Things like TPP System 1, Epic, Cerner, systems like that. We can go for application integration. Again, if we've got the skills, we can integrate the data between systems. It requires a level of sophistication and skill, and not all monolithic applications are up for integration, even if it's just data integration. Or we can be the modern world, which is composable business, whereby actually there are numerous and available components which can be combined based on different needs, based on standards, and what they call a platform-based approach. So the monolithic applications, it's a bit of IT history. They were around in the 1980s to maybe 2003-ish in all other industries. Application integration was everywhere between 2003 and 2014. Composable business has been an active personalization, has started embryonically 2014, but has become more and more the norm across industries, banking, automation, film, music, all industries. 95% of health electronic patient record today, the incumbent vendors who've got the massive market share are monolithic applications. Some of them do integrate to some degree, but primarily they are not open systems which allow you to call different component parts or wrap something around them. They are functionally rich. They've had years of development, so therefore when it comes to doing old school health and care, such as running the hospital as we run it today, then these capabilities will have a wealth of functionality within them to meet the needs of clinicians today. Unfortunately, they push on what I call vendor lock-in, and vendor lock-in basically means that you have to buy their capabilities, and if you want to integrate, you usually have to pay an extortionate amount of money to pay for data to be freed up and made available. So therefore, just by way of example, if you have an Epic system, for instance, and you want to closely integrate your social care system, or you want to closely integrate a specialist ophthalmology system, for instance, it's really difficult to do that without it being extremely costly. However, you can use their jack of all trades ophthalmology capability, and that's something you can do. It's an all or nothing generally. TPP, very similar, famous for it. Cerner, Liquid Logic is a social care system, same sort of thing. They are not necessarily digital companies. They are functionally rich. They've got a high market share. It's very hard for people to break new entrants to come into this particular market. They have got a good stranglehold, and they've got cash cows which are making loads of money. Integration is one option that I talked about. It requires a lot of technical skill, know-how, and the like. And the Yorkshire Number Care Record program, which is a program that I led for the development of the bid for and was successful. We were successful in securing the money for, has developed an open platform for integration. It's not a proprietary integration engine, it is an open system of systems integration engine which integrates systems, but nevertheless you do require good technical knowledge to open up systems and transfer data across. York, in fact, are connected. We'll have our YAS transfer of care as one example, which will be transformational, but it's just the transformation of data across. There's no workflow or decision support. It's complicated, but it's on the right directions. Application integration. We need to have open systems, and this is a basic level on the journey to the more composable applications. Of composable services, they need a platform to work on. The Yorkshire Number Care Record could be a starting point for that. That's based on FHIR standards, which is Federated Healthcare Interoperability Resources, which is a particular standard for data models. There is an emerging market here. Alcidion is a capability which has been developed in Australia. I've got lots of customers in Australia and New Zealand, some customers in the UK, which develop an open platform electronic patient record system, which sucks data from existing systems, but then builds the platform on which other people can build components. There's quite a lot of success in those parts of the world, and The problem with this, it's emerging. It's an emerging market. It's bleeding edge. It's probably not as functionally capable. It's not as functionally rich as what some of the monolithic systems do today. The market is still in development. The ecosystem is still in development, and it's something which needs some pump priming to do. And in this scenario, this would be a scenario where possibly migrating to Alcidion, but doing so whilst developing our core record capability for the time being. And this is a little logo we've made up for CPD. So my ideal world strategy for the ICS would be one where we all use the auction number care record and used that at this bottom here to integrate where possible our monolithic applications as much as we can do, and develop a shared capability in the auction number care record in terms of skills and ability to do that, as opposed to separate capabilities in separate organisations. That's what we should be doing across Humber Coast and Vale. Some issues with the auction number care record programme in terms of the skills of the people in there, but nevertheless, I think that's something which is the right way to do. But the other development, of course, which is important, is developing these platform-based standards on top of that, which enable us to start to transition and encourage the market to develop these application components on top. So your A, B, C, D, E, F. F might be a diabetes management solution. L might be an ophthalmology system, a specialist ophthalmology system, which needs to call other modules from this platform, which will be based on the FHIR standard. These are new and emerging standards which need to be developed. And I think working with a company like Alcidion, for instance, and I'm not saying they're the only company, but this is where there needs to be some research, and hopefully Ethical can help us with this, can help us to start to transition to this world. And that's another representation of that. We have our core systems of record, which is the old world, moving to the new world in a gradual way. The risks of issues of any change, especially big bang changes moving to a new system. Let's not underestimate the cost of change is significant. Yeah, 6 million is the maximum you will get from digital aspirants. Yeah, 3 million is required for the cost of change. That's if the software is 3 million or less. The cost of change is significant. The cost of change is significant not just on the finances, but based on the impact onto our business. Hull University Teaching Hospital took 5 years or so to make the change, and they're not willing to do another change for a period of time, as they've just signed another 5-year deal with Lorenzo. We also have to consider our capacity change, both clinical, operational and IT. It's not there. How would we create that capacity to enable us to work whilst maintaining services to the levels we're at now, especially when we consider the recovery that we have to go through over the next few years? Our in-house digital skills and capacity is limited, which is known. We need to go through a process of building that capacity up and having the good foundations. And data migration would be an absolute nightmare, with data quality a significant issue and risk for us here in the Trust. Just some of the risks to be considered with any change. So the dilemma for me, do we stay safe and traditional, which might secure investment from NHSX, something safe, something which is akin to the old health system, or look to try and sell it to NHSX as an ICS? Well, first of all, sell to the ICS as a whole, and then to NHSX, a more pioneering approach and a more uncertain path to transform healthcare by synergizing the older traditional model with a new digital world. If the capabilities arrive, the transition will be incremental, and therefore the risk of change is less compared to that big bang change. But the capabilities have to arrive. Will the market provide? Will there be sufficient incentive for new entrants to come into the market? Can suppliers out there potentially come and augment the resource we've got to sustain CPD as a core capability longer and develop our integration capability. These are the dilemmas and things to think about.